How's it going, Razmanites? You got the Razman here, coming at you with what I hope will be my very, very last podcast style video. I am due to get a payment either this week or early next week, and as soon as that payment comes through, I will have enough to finally buy all the parts from Newegg for my much needed new computer system. So, yeah, hopefully this is the last podcast style video we have. But of course, I'm here to talk about my reaction slash review of WWE Extreme Rules, which took place last night. The show was awesome. Extreme Rules, for what could have been a lackluster show because there's really only three matches on the card that you really were invested in, was an amazing show. Alright, so we kick off the night with the pre-show. And it's very rare that you actually have to talk about a pre-show in a WWE pay-per-view review because you don't have anything on the pre-show worth mentioning. But they have a feud right now going on between El Torito and Hornswoggle. And for a midget feud, this is exactly what it should be. I mean, it's comic relief coupled with athleticism. Both guys can actually really go when given the opportunity, and they showed that last night. And then they threw a new element and new wrinkle into what's been going on WWE Main Event and WWE SmackDown during this feud, which is that at Extreme Rules, they had midgets everywhere. They had a midget announcer and a midget commentary team. They had Mike Call, a guy that was supposed to be Jerry Lawler, and a guy that went by WBO, and I think at one point it was JB Elf. Like they couldn't decide what to call him, but they were actually really entertaining as a commentary team, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that match. I expected it to be decent but not good, and this was good. So kudos to everybody involved there. The actual show kicks off, Extreme Rules kicks off with the three-way elimination match, Raw Van Dam versus Jack Swagger versus Cesaro. No real surprise here, Cesaro wins, but RVD had an elimination of Jack Swagger, which kind of made me scratch my head. I mean, I know it's RVD and the whole extreme history thing, and the fact that they kind of threw him in the middle of this feud for no reason, just because he's a former Paul Heyman guy. I guess they felt like they needed to justify that with giving him something in the match, so that kind of made me scratch my head a bit. But decent match. Glad to see Cesaro go over here. Good way to open the pay-per-view for sure. Next up, it was the Intercontinental Championship. Wade Barrett defeats Big E Langston, or Big E, I guess now. They've dropped the Langston completely, and I forgot that, so that's why I explained that. But, yeah, I really enjoyed the match because it put Barrett over, which is what it should have done. Barrett was extremely strong in the match, and Barrett walks out the new WWE Intercontinental Champion. And come to find out during the post-match interview during the Fallout show that they actually are having Barrett mention the fact that this is now the second most important title in WWE. So it looks like WWE is really noticing that they have to build up the Intercontinental title again, which is something I've been preaching for months and months and months on the podcast that I do with Brendan Miller, the former WWE TNA for Life, now the PW Outsider. That show is still going on. There'll be a link down below in the description box of, I guess, our final episode of Reality for Life. We have to figure out a new name for it now because he's decided to distance himself from TNA and wanted to go with his brand change. So I'm not sure when the next episode will be, but yeah, a link to our latest one will be down below in the description box, and of course you can check out his review to hear what he thought of the show. But I really, like I said, I've really been pushing for months to do a build up of the Intercontinental Championship, and it looks like that's the way that they're going to go for sure now. So I'm very happy about that. Solid match there. And I say solid because it kind of looked kind of bumbly and stumbly at certain points. I don't think that Barrett and Big E had the chemistry that they could have had. So I'm not a big fan of how it turned out, I guess, overall. But I'm glad that Barrett won. And then the third match of the night, which in my opinion is a big, big shocker, that they put this match in the right smack dab in the middle of the pay-per-view. But it was The Shield versus Evolution in a six-man no disqualification match. And I gotta say that this was the greatest six-man tag I've ever seen. I called it one of the greatest matches last night on Twitter, and then I spent some time before going to sleep and before hitting the recording studio this morning thinking about have I ever seen a better six-man tag match? And the answer is no. The Wyatts and the Shield put on some great matches late last year, but this was the greatest six-man match that I have ever seen. Bar none. And Rollins and Reigns and Ambrose were just amazing. Hunter, Batista, for what he is, and he's still Batista, I still can't stand him, but for what he is, and Randy Orton for this stage of his career that he is in, all six guys just phenomenal, phenomenal work, and I just was a big, big fan of this match. In my opinion, the new leader for match of the year in WWE, surpassing just a hair of the third match between Sami Zayn and Cesaro from NXT. So that's how good this match was, and I have to now put it ahead of Triple H and Daniel Bryan from WrestleMania. So I'm a big, big supporter of all six of these guys, and I actually wouldn't mind seeing a few continue for at least one more match if that's the kind of quality that they can put on. I mean, it was amazing. So Shield goes over here. Roman Reigns getting the spear for the victory on Batista. Next up, you had John Cena versus Bray Wyatt in a steel cage. Wyatt goes over here as he hits Sister Abigail on Cena for the victory. That's not what the highlight of the match will be, and the thing that will be remembered about the match, and because the thing that will be remembered about the match will be little Johnny, as they're referring to him. This little kid comes out with a voice changer singing he's got the whole world in his hands, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial right now, I think. Not so much controversial, but there's going to be a lot of people who don't get this stance that I'm taking with this, but it's honestly how I feel. I'm extremely religious. Every decision in my life that I make is done by God's hand, and I'm not a fan of them using he's got the world in his hands for this feud. I think there's other songs that can get across a crazy character, so I'm not a big fan of them using this song at all. And then on top of that, they've sort of transformed Bray Wyatt from a cult leader, a guy that's a charismatic figure, into almost a demonic like figure because of the way that they had the kid's voice being so deep, and it was like a backwards record. And they did the same thing after the match was over, had him do a backwards record kind of a moment with Bray Wyatt and Harper and Rowan. So I'm just not a big fan of where this is going. I understand it. I understand the story that they're trying to tell. And I don't have a problem with it. Bringing little kids into it actually helps it. And I'm not discrediting anything about the feud. I'm really, really enjoying the feud. They're telling a great story. But I just don't like some of the aspects about it. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. They need to get away from the religious aspect because honestly, it's making me very, very uncomfortable. And every time John Cena and Bray Wyatt come on screen, I get very, very uncomfortable. And some people will say, well, that means that Bray Wyatt's doing his job. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. That's exactly what it does mean, that Bray Wyatt is doing its job, or his job, sorry. But there comes a point where a heel is making you uncomfortable because he's a heel and he's doing his job, and the heel is making you uncomfortable because of the writing and the presentation. And at this point, the writing and the presentation is just making me very, very uneasy. So I'll give it a little bit more chance, but I hope that they can keep the momentum going, but tone down the religious aspect of it a little bit. And that's just how I feel about it. So next up, we have perfect placement for this match. So many others have said it, and I have to echo it because it's 100% true. Perfect placement for this match. Divas Championship, Tamina Snuka challenging the Divas Champion Paige, who of course retains her title, and just coming off win it. Very, very solid match. I said all along, you call Paige up, you call these other divas from NXT up, the women that can actually wrestle. The Divas Championship is going to become relevant again, and it's already started. Solid, solid match. A 5-star match. Or, well, not a 5-star match. That's a little bit overkill. I'm sorry. Let me say a 3-star match. A 3-star match from women wrestlers. And there's not often times that you can say that. So, very, very solid performance here. The only thing that worries me is if they don't call more girls up from NXT quickly, there isn't a lot of divas on the roster that are at Paige's skill level. So I'm a little bit worried that she's going to get stuck again in 5-10 minute matches that nobody remembers, and that will be a problem. But we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I'm really excited about Paige as Divas Champion, and I'm really, really appreciated this match. And then the main event, and I'm very happy, even though that this didn't get the feel. Sorry, my Android went off in the background. Even though this didn't get the feel that it should have had for a main event build wise, because of Daniel Bryan having to miss time for his honeymoon and his father's death. I'm very, very happy that this was the last match, because Daniel Bryan is the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And there should be nothing more important in WWE than the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And there's a lot of people that are worried about Daniel Bryan right now, and I don't agree with that. I don't understand it. All these people that are saying, oh, people are saying the Yes chant is more over than Daniel Bryan. That's ridiculous. The Yes chant succeeded because of Daniel Bryan, for no other reason. If you don't believe that, watch Journey to WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan, on the WWE Network. Watch that show, and you'll have no other doubt in your mind that it's Daniel Bryan. And when Daniel Bryan came out, it was more Daniel Bryan chants than Yes chants last night. And something very, very awesome happened last night. I'm just talking about Daniel Bryan here in a minute, and then we'll go into the match itself a little bit. And that was, they had a Fallout post-match interview. And Bryan, in trying to describe his toughness and trying to describe the other level that the two had to go to in the course of the match, brought back something that I haven't heard from him in years. And I think that this could be the start of the American Dragon Bryan Danielson coming in to the Daniel Bryan character and really taking Daniel Bryan up to another level. Because last night we heard the return of, you're going to get your head kicked in. And it just gave me goosebumps. When Daniel Bryan said that, I had a fit, and I created a hashtag that I hope catches on last night, and it was hashtag Fear American Dragon at WWE World Heavyweight Champion WWE Daniel Bryan. So I am just ecstatic of more of I am the man, and this is why I'm the man. Coming out of the WWE Daniel Bryan persona, and I'm just hope that it continues. But as far as the match itself, I'm really, really surprised by how good this was because Bryan and Kane have faced each other before. Bryan's beaten Kane before. I think the longer that they drag this feud out, the more stale it's going to be, and I hope it doesn't go beyond Payback, honestly. But for this match, this was far better than anybody expected it to be. Just a tremendous way to tell a story, tremendous use of the Extreme Rules factor, the forklift. I thought was genius writing, and then Kane brings out the flaming table and it backfires on him as Bryan sends him through it, and then Bryan finishes off a burning Kane with a running knee to retain the title. Just a way better match than anybody expected it to be, and WWE just they pulled it out last night. Extreme Rules was memorable. It's a 7 out of 10 pay-per-view. And I just did not expect to see that with only the Shield versus Evolution, only Bryan and Kane, and only Wyatt and Cena being the matches that had any build-up going into it. We ended up with a 7 out of 10 pay-per-view. And no filler matches at all. Oh, I completely skipped over, well, the one match that I guess would be considered a filler, which was Alexander Rusev versus Xavier Woods and R-Truth. Supposed to be Xavier Woods and R-Truth, but Woods gets taken out before the match even starts, and Rusev just goes over here. I agree with my partner in crime, something he said in a text to me last night. I think that Alexander Rusev is just a future endeavoring waiting to happen. I'm not into the big monstrous guys with no charisma anymore. Lana is more important than Rusev, and Rusev is just going to get old and stale because there's nothing they can do anymore in wrestling with a big guy that can't speak. So yeah, that's WWE Extreme Rules. This is reality according to the Razman and Razman style, not just a catchphrase but a way of life. Don't forget to check out my friends and sponsors of this brand, geeky.com, down below in the description box.